Hello, everybody. Climate activists are standing trial today because they have blocked the doors of a Burger King restaurant in the city of Trier. One door was blocked with a heap of trash, and the second one was glued, or rather, the activists was glued to the activists, or the activists glued themselves onto that very door so that customers could not go inside. The activists claimed that if people really, really wanted to, go into the restaurant, they could have, but nobody wanted, of course, under such conditions. If you have people glued to the door, then that is not very inviting. He said, as a justification to local reporters,
zu zeigen, dass ich hier mit dem Fleischwahn, der industriellen Massentierhaltung und allem nicht einverstanden bin.
that he wanted to show that he is dissatisfied with the meat madness, the industrial livestock farming, and all. And he is actually dropping his voice off at the end of the sentence, suggesting that he is already, his mind's already traveled to the next thought. But I think that and all is speaking actually more to what is driving him, and that is he doesn't really care about anything specifically. He claims to care about it all, and in reality he does not care about anything, and that can be shown with the signs I will read out to you. But first he continued his explanation by saying, I want to sharpen the awareness of the climate for the health and for the animals. And that sentence alone gives away that he pretends to care about everything, and his solution is gluing himself to the door, which is of course ludicrous.
Das Bewusstsein schärfen fürs Klima, für die Gesundheit, für die Tiere und für die Umwelt.
If he really cared about sharpening the awareness of something, he would have thought a bit harder about how to explain what supposedly the wider public does not know in more detail, because as I've said already in my last video about basically intelligence and how the public has become dumb, or a part of my reasoning about it, that there is a lack of intelligent communication. We don't address each other as intelligent people anymore. There are all these PR people, marketing people who always say, well, to get a majority, it is enough to play to the emotional base, etc., etc. And yes, that may be true if your goal is just to get a majority. If your interest is in sorting out conflicts and interests and be honest about your approaches, your solutions, and so on, your goals are higher. You don't just want any majority for right or wrong, not getting the pros and cons heard, sorting interests out, trying to listen to both sides, also trying to find out where you are right and where you are wrong. If those things are pushed aside, we only navigate through the pure marketing world where the emotions and appeals are everything that matters. And as I've said in my last video, I feel that the majority of our elites, that is our media, our politicians, they seek to find a majority, and they don't care anymore if that majority is right or wrong, if they themselves learn anything about their issues or not, what the other side has to say. They don't care about it at all anymore. They just care about slogans, images, communication in the most basic form. But that does not sharpen anything. It does not sharpen any awareness. It actually makes us effectively dumber. And I think one sign speaks to this specifically, and that is a sign that just says, we denounce. It does not say we denounce X, it just says we denounce. Another sign means fast food equals almost dead. And there is a banner that says, this is an emergency, take climate crisis seriously. And that banner is by the group, or is made and bears the logo of the group Extinction Rebellion. I have not yet seen any evidence, but if so, I just wonder how there is so little in the communication. Here again, I mean, I find it really frustrating that I have to go to that very basic argument all the time, because it is frustrating. I feel that they have taken a a topic that is very remote from your everyday life, that your normal person does not feel comfortable with. That is the ocean currents, the cloud formations, the net product of the effects of these things, volcano activity, the sun radiation, etc., etc. Your average person does not know anything about these things, or not much detail about these things, and the political process is not drawing them in. Okay, we are not having a lot of TV shows talking about it. We actually never see specialists debating it on TV. And live presentations of such debates are actually essential, because only then you as an outsider can quickly discern who means it and who does not, because there are facial movements, etc. that gives a lot cues away who is honest and who isn't. We don't see any of it. We see cook shows, we see crime story and mystery stuff shows, we see reality TV shows about garbage, and so on and so on and so on. I'm not saying take all of this away and do more climate rhetoric all the time, because we see also a lot of the same thing, which is this low IQ drumming down of the ever same slogans all the time. It's not like we haven't enough. Okay, we have actually too much, but too much of the wrong communication. What we fail from all these people who claim that we are in a crisis and they are the know-it-alls. Those people explain very little, and of course the arrogant answer from these people usually comes as, so why don't you research all of this? Yeah, well, because it's so remote, because it's so many things at the same time. And why don't you, if you are the one who is so concerned, why don't you gradually build up the information in the wider public? Why do I have to read it all the time? Why don't I hear much of it being talked about in details? Okay, details, not slogans. And that brings me a bit also to our education, because these kids, I don't know if they are heading towards a university. I don't know, but we have now the situation that half of the population or the younger generation believes they are capable of studying on a university. That is also largely because the standards have declined on the universities, etc., etc. And I think none of these people will be a part of the solution that they claim to care about. I don't think that these people will become engineers who will be more effective in the resources, and then also by that more effective with the emissions. So if you reduce the input, also usually you will have less waste output. I mean, if you're more efficient and in a free market economy, you usually become to remain competitive. If you do these things, you are usually part of the solution. But I don't believe that any of these kids are a part of that solution. And these politicians, the bankers, etc., the central bank has just announced that they will also buy more bonds from companies who claim to do something about climate change and so on. Those people won't be part of the solution, because they aren't engineers. They don't have the education to look into these things. And what frustrates me is that our education system is becoming ever worse, and is actually moving away from producing anybody who can work towards a solution to less emissions of any kind, including something that may drive the temperature. What we have instead is more arts, more cultural blah blah, more anti-racism and so on, and we have fewer and fewer actual hard math and science classes. And you do need the latter, not the former. And a part of the answer why everybody is studying and studying becomes ever more fluff, and then you have all these self-aggrandizing kids protesting for things they don't even understand, is that we have been polite towards people who are not on top speed in the cognitive way. So to be polite, we used to say, well, there are like two types of students. There is the the theoretically minded student, and then there is the practically minded student. And the implication in the past was that the student who is into theoretics is more academically minded and will produce more output for society, will contribute more to humanity, and the practically minded person will do his family life things and maybe contributes the same amount by other means, like producing children who may or may not be, again, more theoretically minded, or he may also be self-sufficient. I mean, practically minded can also mean that you have a down-to-earth job that actually does contribute a lot to the society. So that used to be the idea. However, that idea that theoretical topics are in and of themselves more intelligent and more helpful than the practical matters caused two things. Actually, there's a class awareness that everybody wanted to go into theoretical stuff, and secondly, that theoretical stuff becomes good or prestigious exactly because it's useless. Okay, and the original division was because the theory requires a longer attention span. Usually, you take more time to study through things until you find an application. So you have a stamina in the person, okay? And later, if everybody does it, and there are actually no repercussions in failing and so on, then that stamina distinction also falls apart. It does not matter, or it does not tell much about the student if he goes into a practical field or in a theoretical field. And now we have an overload of medium intelligent or even low intelligent people in theoretical useless areas, and this creates a lot of wrong incentives. So our society cannot solve a lot of problems anymore, and the climate problem may only be one of many that we can no longer solve if the incentives are into the ever more obscure, ever more remote topics, and far away from the craftsmanship that is needed to keep a society together. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon. Bye.